I want to do a little bit of logistics first because we still have people coming in. This is so wonderful for the new year to start out jam-packed. So if you have an empty seat in the middle of an aisle or in the middle of a row, could you move to the center so that people could, yeah. And then as you're resettling yourself, I would love to welcome all of you who are here for the very first time. So we have a little information packet for you if you're here for the first time, or if you're back after a long time. This is something we have new. So would you raise your hand until you get something in it, and then people will run to you and give you, there's one over here, and as we welcome you, and as the people next to you realize that you're new, I want you to feel so at home, like you've come back, like even though this is your first time, you've come back home, because that's how we feel each and every Sunday. So you're here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, where our vision is awakening personal transformation, and our mission is teaching tools for positive change. Our first altar of the new year is by Kathy Fowler, and this is so perfect because she came up to me last Sunday and she said, I'm going to do a whole angel altar for blessing our whole year. So this is just an example of what really exists, that we have so much energy blessing us in our endeavors in this new year. So I do want to wish you a very, very warm and welcoming new year. When I was finishing up last year, I thought, where is the energy going to come to start again? And it's here. It is here. And don't you love the decorations left over from New Year's Eve? So we're just like so dressed up. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, Francine, but wouldn't it be nice to have it all the time? Francine's looking at it, and So, are you ready to begin 2016? Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. This image that is up behind me was on December 7th, 1972. This is the first time that we saw the blue marble, an image from Apollo 17 as they were going to the moon, of the Earth from so far away that it looked like a blue marble in a black sky. One of the NASA quotes seeing this, the depiction of Earth's frailty, vulnerability, and isolation amid the vast expanse of space. This is one of the most widely distributed images in all of human history. Something happened to us as a species when we saw this for the first time. When we saw what we lived on as it really is from the vast eternity of space, with no borders, with no colors on the map, just this beautiful blue marble hanging in space. Something turned on in us when we saw this, and it's a realization that we're all in this together. Whether or not we remember it every day, when we look at this image, we do know that we are one planet, one people, and that supposedly we are the smartest species on this blue marble. We certainly have the capacity to order all the rest of it. And so we have this feeling of we are all in this together, because this, wait a minute, I didn't mean to do that. This is home. This is home. And we're all at home together. In the book of Genesis, it said that we have dominion over the earth. And I think that we have taken that for a long time to mean we have control over it. We just own it. We have we got it. We got this thing, and we're going to use it. But I think dominion actually means that we have responsibility for it. And we have responsibility for all of us, because we are supposedly the most intelligent species on this thing. We have responsibility for all of the other species that are on it, all other life forms. And we must work together, or it's not going to work. I mean, it's pretty evident by looking at that blue marble in space. And it's ridiculous when we see this image to think that one part of us is against another part. It doesn't really make much sense. And so when I say that we all must work together for this all to work for us, what's so thrilling about 2016 and being in this particular denomination, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living, is that for the first time, the Centers for Spiritual Living is coming together to make something work for all of us. And so the theme that we have for this year is being shared by over 150 other churches worldwide. And the ministers' listserv was absolutely thrilling this morning. I went on it, and they're saying, I can't believe that we're all going to do this together today, that we're all going to be talking about the same thing. And so for you to think that when you go traveling and you find another church that you want to visit where you're traveling to, you're going to get something similar to what everybody is experiencing here. So the theme for this year is the global vision, a world that works for everyone. So each center is interpreting the theme as they want, although we do have some notes that are being passed around. My talk is not going to be the same as Edward's talk. It's not going to be the talk that Eloise gives across the bay. It is similar, but we all get to interpret it the way we want. And each center is also having a whole bunch of different support things that support this theme. So you're all going to find out about what we're going to do this year, and I hope you're as excited about it as I am. So when we look at this theme, which is a world that works for everyone, I want to kind of ground us in this. So most of you, I hope, have this handout that you were given. This is going to be available all year long if you didn't get it. So first of all, a world that works for everyone is an idea whose time has come. So I want to just kind of go through this side. This is what we believe on one side, and a world that works for everyone, the global vision, on the other side. And this is what we're going to be working with the whole year. So you can take this home, you can put it on your refrigerator, you can pick another one up next week and put it in your car or give it to a friend. So if you'll just go over this with me, we see a world that works for everyone is what it starts with. Now this is not that we hope that there's a world that works for everyone, or that, we doubt that it's possible, but gosh, it would really be nice. It doesn't really even say how we're going to do this. It just says we see a world that works for everyone, and I want us all, as much as we possibly can, to come together today and see that, to see that beautiful blue marble can work for everyone. So specifically, where all life is honored as expressions of the divine. So that means everyone from every culture, everyone that we think or that's called our enemy on the media. No, this means that every single person is honored as an expression of the divine. Where people live according to spiritual truth, and that truth is with a capital T. And so I'm not saying that every single person has to align with our philosophy, but when you look at religions worldwide, there is more similarity than there are differences. And in fact, the golden rule that do unto others as you would have them do unto you is in every single religion. And like I've said, I don't know how many times you've heard me say, if we just did that, if we only did that, if we treated other people the way we really, really want to be treated, we would have a world that works for everybody. Because, if you're hungry, you'd like somebody to give you an energy bar. If you're lonesome, you would like somebody to give you a hug. If you don't have the money for, all the items that you have picked up at Safeway, you would like somebody to come in behind you and say, I'll take care of it. You would like that. That's what we get to do this year, is live from spiritual truth, and if that is the only spiritual truth we got in our basket, that'll work. Where humanity awakens to spiritual magnificence. That means everybody, no exceptions. And that if you see someone that looks like they're hating themselves or downtrodden and they don't have hope or they don't have much of anything to take their next breath with, that there is something that you can say at that moment that will take a step with them towards their spiritual magnificence. Where humanity rediscovers personal creative power. This means that we all get to move away from discouragement and fear. Even if we only just did that, if we all just moved away from discouragement and fear, we would be taking steps towards a world that works for everyone. Where we live as one global family. Now this is a biggie. This is where we get to imagine what it's really like to live on the blue marble, with a world with no borders. Just think about that. Where kinship with all life is sacred, and that we respect life everywhere. We respect the life that we eat. We respect the life that we wear, because we're all divine beings, every single one of us, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the crawlies, the swimmers, everybody. Where unity and connection is emphasized instead of differences, where we meet someone and we're not instantly comparing ourselves with them, but we're finding out where we're the same, where forgiveness is the norm. So this is really, in this setting, it is about letting go of the fight on the inside. Wherever you feel that you are against something, or you're up against it, or you're afraid of it, or you're resisting it, the forgiveness is letting go of the fight on the inside. Where spiritual guidance is valued. So how to learn your way of calling up God. It's different for all of us. That's the lovely thing and the difficult thing about religions, that there is a spiritual truth that we're sharing with all other religions, but then the path of each one of us is very, very individual. And helping each other find our own path is what we're about this year. Where we are called to conscious social action, like the REST program, like what we're doing with the REST program, which you'll hear more about later on. Where people have enough food, home, and a sense of belonging. So everyone on that blue marble can say, I have enough. Where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all. Those are like the words of our founding father and fathers and mothers. And it really means a planet where war is obsolete, where that it's in our past, but it's in our past. Where resources are valued, cared for, and shared. So being spiritually responsible is actually sharing and not hoarding. So that is part of our work this year. Where communities are meaningfully involved in service to the world. So not only do we have REST, but we have our heart-to-heart team. And we have our practitioners that work in the world. And that means every single one of us can do something this year. And then where there is a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, creativity, and art that serves all souls. Because this is what makes us human and opens us up to the divine. So as we look over this is a big difference in the emphasis that we've done for years and years, because a lot of our work has been about making your life work, making my life work, and sort of learning the spiritual tools of how to think and pray and work with the creative law so that our life works. But we're turning it outward this year. And if your life doesn't work, all of the principles that I'm going to talk about and the other speakers are going to talk about all year long can relate to you as well. So we're going to do both. Relate to you and how your life works, and then how the life of the planet works. If some of these items sound political to you, it's not meant to be political at all. It's meant to be spiritually responsible. And yes, this is a broader look of our spiritual work. And I think we're grown up enough to do it this year. I hope you agree. Yes. Yeah, okay. Yes, all right. So, next is a world that works for everyone is possible. So, if you think that living in peace and plenty is impossible, it is. Nelson Mandela said, "One cannot be prepared for something while secretly believing it will not happen." So I really work on this one. I do. I really work on it. I think, we have evolved from, big fish eating little fish, and, that's pretty scary. And so who's going to take our stuff? And, we've got that inbred in us. And I am really, really working with myself to visualize and see a world that works for everyone, where there is peace and plenty for all. So I want you to know that I am doing the practices that I'm going to suggest that we all do. So this statement by Nelson Mandela is one of the places where we go from the macro down to you. So I'm going to read it again. One cannot be prepared for something while secretly believing it will not happen. So this applies to every single desire that you have in your life and that I have in my life. It works on a macro level about seeing peace in the world, and it works on our individual level about being able to pay our bills and being healthy and vital and being healthy enough to accomplish our life purpose. And if you believe that it is impossible for you to accomplish your life purpose, it is. You will play that out. And so your work, my work, is to really believe that what we desire is possible. Desire is not enough. We have to really and truly believe that it is possible. Hoping and believing it is not possible is the perfect scenario for it not happening. Gosh, I really hope this happens that, well, it's not going to happen. So I want to ask us, getting back to the macro level again for a moment, what if world peace were really, if we in this room were responsible for it? What if it were up to us, right here? We don't care what anybody else does. They can, twirl, but, what we're doing here is what makes a difference for the whole world. That's what we have to take on, people, because that is really the truth. It is possible. If we had a transformation right here and now, if everybody had an altar call, I'm for it, I am for world peace, that we could make incremental changes here, and then here, and then here, and it ripples out and ripples out and ripples out and ripples out, and we would change the world. And in fact, Margaret Mead, the great anthropologist, said, "Never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So that's what we are up for today and this year, and I say it again, desire is not enough. We all, we don't have to, we could go to anybody in a war-torn country right now where there is poverty and not enough to eat and people hate us. And we could say, would you like a world that works for everybody? Of course they would say yes. Everybody would say that's what they want. So desire is not enough. We have to work on our beliefs, and then the speech that follows our beliefs, and then the action that follows our speech. So next, a world that works for everyone will work for you. It's not that you're going to all of a sudden just turn your attention to the world and you still can't pay your bills. Because if everyone in the world was content and prosperous, you would be too. So there's no competition with happiness or fulfillment. I mean, really, everyone can have the good that they deserve. There is no lack of good. There is no real lack of resources. It's about the distribution of them. Everybody can have a good life, and you can too. And you can have a good life, and everybody else can too. So in our method of prayer, when we pray, often we say, for the good of all and the harm of none. We really mean that. That there is a path that is for the good of all and the harm of none, no matter what path you're on, no matter what is the end result, if it's a very specific thing in your life or if it's generally wonderful world peace, there is a path that is for the good of all and the harm of none. And as we get to this spiritual guidance that is valued and learn how to do that, we will find the path that is for the good of all and the harm of none. So sometimes when I say that, for the good of all and the harm of none, people go directly to a conflict in their life where it really looks like if I win, they're not going to win. Or if this one leaves me, they're going to be happy, but I'm going to be miserable. And so and that's really great, because when we go to that place in our life that needs healing the most and seems the most absurd in relation to what I've just said, that there is a path that is for the good of all and the harm of none. So if that came up for you, get yourself a prayer after the service with a practitioner, because they don't have that path in their consciousness whatsoever, and they can pray for you so that you can find at least the first step on that path that is for the good of all and the harm of none. All right, next. A world that works for everyone requires some changes. You know that definition of crazy, you just are insane. You want something different, but you keep doing the exact same thing. And if we look out at our world, there are some things that do not fit the theme that the world works for everybody. And so there are some changes that are going to have to be made, changes in beliefs, in speech, and in action. And some are obvious. Some you may have already come up with today. Some like not judging according to superficial things, but seeing the oneness and the commonality in all of us. But some are deeper. Like, what would it be like with no borders? Really? What would world commerce look like? And how would being one global family really work? That's deep, and that will require some changes. But if you could make one change today, what would it be? Start thinking about that, because I'm going to ask you to do that. I'm going to actually ask you and myself to make one change for the good of the global vision that you will do from this moment forward. Well, I thought about that a lot. And I'll bring that up when I give you the exact assignment. But these changes do not have to be distasteful whatsoever. They can be miraculous and glorious and fun and delicious and connecting and make our head, when it hits the pillow at night, go, wow, this is really working. So I want to join with Rumi. Rumi said, wake up. This world that you dream holds nothing to fear. And that's where we're going, people. So I'm now ready to talk about what we have in place so far to support this theme, okay? Our support of the Global Vision theme. So first of all, we have a year-long book study that's planned based on Jean Houston's The Manual for the Peacemaker. This is a miraculous book, and I want to read to you just a little bit from the introduction in the first chapter. The book is in the bookstore today. Now, and as we've done book studies in the past, these are going to be home-based, and so you will gather in a home of a host, or you can gather with your partner, or you can gather with your neighbors that have nothing to do with this community. But what we are doing today, and probably next Sunday and the next Sunday after that, is that we are signing up people who want to be hosts. And what that means is you just put on the tea water and dust, if you want to dust. And I mean, you don't have to teach anything. The curriculum will be self-teaching. And so you just, and if you're the host, you get to say what night and what time. So it usually is one meeting a month, and so the sign up for that is in the back. So let me read now from the Manual for the Peacemaker. This book is intended to enable groups of people to experience together the transformational power of one of the greatest stories ever told. In the pages that follow, you will enter the story of Daganoweda and Hiawatha, following the stages of their creation of a new peace and a new mind. And in doing so, experience your own potential for renewing both self and society. A little bit more about this story. Daganoweda, this is about the Iroquois nation. And before the Americans, the Europeans came to this continent. And Daganoweda was a man from the north. The figure of Daganoweda carries archetypal power as a new kind of peacemaker. This peace embraces what he calls a new mind, a radical change in consciousness that opens itself to a new order of health, justice, and sacred power. Another author, Felix Cohen, writes, politically, there was nothing in the empires and the kingdoms of Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries to parallel the democratic constitution of the Iroquois Confederacy, with its provisions for initiative, referendum, and recall, and its suffrages for women as well as for men. And so what happened was that the first explorers that came over to North America were so impressed with the Iroquois Confederacy that they took back the ideas to Europe. So it says, there is much evidence to suggest that the Indian influence extended to the great social theorists of the Enlightenment, among them Rousseau and Voltaire. Thus, the great ideas and models of democracy began in America with the native population, crossed the Atlantic to simmer in Europe, and were re-imported back to these shores to inform and encourage founding fathers. And so what happened was that that the Iroquois nation provided a major influence for the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution of the United States. And so this is a democracy that was on this continent before the Europeans came. And this was the Iroquois created peace among, I think it was 5 nations, that lasted for hundreds of years. And so they have something to teach us. And we are going to be working with this book all year long. It is a marvelous, marvelous book. I hope every single one of you gets it and keeps up with this. I'll be referring to it on Sundays, but mostly it will be study in homes right through this wonderful book, and we have it at the bookstore. Next, we're going to have weekly practices. So, instead of the going deeper that we had last year, that was everyone's suggestion, if you want to really use this, here's what you do. This year, we're going to have here's what you do, a spiritual practice every single week, and this is how it's going to work. If you do the practice on the following Sunday, like next Sunday, we're going to start this, there will be a card, and the card says, I did the practice for week number 1, this is my name, and this is how I did it. And then you're going to put that card in the offering basket. And anybody that does half of the practices, half, is going to get something very special at the end of the year. So 26 practices, and you get a goodie. Okay? And you're going to get lots more goodies because your life is going to transform. So, Isn't this going to be great? So, all right. How we also support the Global Vision is outreach. So we have the REST program that we're going to continue with. We have the Temenos support that we're going to continue with. I put something up on Facebook that I saw. It's a little packet that you can get most of these supplies in a dollar store, and it's things like, toothbrush, toothpaste, a $5 bill, a snack bar that goes in a gallon baggie, and then you keep them in your car and you give them to people that are begging on the street. And if somebody wants to do that, see me. One more, and we're open. We're open for more ways that we can help make the world work for everybody. I don't want to overwhelm us and do too much, but there's one more thing that I really love, and that is positive documentary movies. I found a list of over 100 documentary movies that are free, and I was going to have a sign-up sheet. That'll have to come next week. It's good. It's kind of like going to unfold. But what I would like is for a team to get together and say, we're the movie team, and like twice a month if you want to, we can figure out how to get one of these movies and show it in the Learning Center and have popcorn and discussion afterwards. And just all of these are positive documentary movies that they themselves are made so that the world can be a better place. So those are my ideas, and I like them. So coming back to the spiritual principles that we have talked about today. The first is, one must believe in the reality of a condition before it can appear. And not only the condition, but the quality behind it. We believe that there is peace, and then we see the condition of peace. And all of that must be this wonderful congruity of affirmative consciousness within us. That we believe in peace, we see peace, we live peace, we speak peace, we act peaceful. And that will make a change in everything. Because the next condition is world change requires personal change. And that is what we are all about for this year. So now, the first spiritual practice. The first spiritual practice that I am challenging you to do is commit to a permanent change for the good of the global vision and start practicing it. So I really thought about this because, I compost, and as Mary says, I don't have very many bad habits. And so I'm really good for the world as I am. But I had to think of something, I could forgive better, but I had to think of something that I am committed to doing now and continuing forever. That's how this works. So I really thought about it, and what I am going to do is pay my bills online. I am not going to use paper for my bills anymore or stamps. I'm going to pay my bills online starting with this pay period in January, and I'm going to continue it forever. So that's my idea. This can be done with an action. This can be done with consciousness. If you promise to meditate on peace every single day for the rest of your life, that'll count. But it can be something inner. Some of these practices will be inner only. Some of them will be outer only. And some will be either or. This one can be either or. But it's something that you, and also as any spiritual practice, you can declare it, but only you know if you're really going to do it. And so really think about, what can I commit to that I will do forever? Okay? How many are going to do it? How many are going to get a card next week and start? Then you only have 25 more to go. Yay. Okay, perfect. So in conclusion, this is a story that Suzanne Baldwin posted on Facebook last night. And as I was perusing my media this morning, I came across it. an anthropologist proposed a game to children of an African tribe. He put a basket of fruit near a tree and told the kids that the first one to reach the fruit would win all of them. When he told them to run, they all took each other's hands and ran together, then sat together enjoying the fruits. When he asked why they ran like that, as one could have taken all the fruit for oneself, they said, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? Ubuntu is a philosophy of African tribes that can be summed up as, I am because we are. That is a world that works for everybody. So turn within now with me. And so many thoughts running, but just let the thoughts move outside your realm of consciousness right now and imagine with me. Imagine a world with no war. Imagine that world with no border checks, because there's no reason to suspect anyone of harm. There is no need for weapons. And so there aren't any. And if someone wants to go hunting and really respect the animals that they deliver to the next realm in order that they can eat their bodies, they do that with weapons that cannot kill hundreds and hundreds of people in seconds. Imagine sharing like Ubuntu. Imagine the lessons of sharing taught so early that if you had something and I needed it, it would be shared. And if I had something that you needed, I would share it. Imagine that the money for the military was reallocated for spiritual empowerment in our schools and in all churches. Imagine an equal sharing of philosophies. Imagine a world where people really didn't look at the color of one's skin, but at the content of their character. Imagine a world where every single school taught as much art and music as they taught math and science. Imagine that harmony in body, mind, and spirit is the norm. And if someone forgets, they are gently reminded that they live in a world of peace that works for everyone. Blessed be.